Okay, hello everybody. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. Greetings, my peoples, where you at? So, we have seen a lot of threats lately coming out of the right wing in this country from Trump's base, the MAGA people, because they have not been having a very good time over the last couple of months, really. Lots of bad things are happening for the Trump people in particular, and one thing that right wingers don't like is to admit when they lose, right? They really, really don't like having to admit that their side is, you know, not filled with super strong alpha males who win at everything. Which is, so we've been seeing a lot of bad news coming from, in particular, the MAGA camp. We have Donald Trump's legal problems that just never seem to go away, right? And now, of course, the entire thing with him. Oh, actually, I want to cut that, and then I want to deselect. Then I want to paste. And now that's a new layer. And then I want to move that. Oh, the move tool. You probably want the move tool. Which one of these is the fucking move tool? That one? No, that's the pan tool. See, I'm slowly learning this program, folks. I will get it one of these days. But anyway, so yeah, now we have Trump's latest legal problems with him, like, stealing classified information and stuff like that. Which, we did an entire stream, and there just seems to be more and more information coming out about that every week. Now we find out that, not only were there folders that have, that are like empty, which means that there's content which is not there, right? Which means, like, well, what happened to the content of those folders? Is it this one? Is this the move tool? Ah, there we go. Okay, so you can see that was like slightly off. So I want to bring that over here. And then I actually want to transform that. How do I transform that? Transform? Ah, there we go. Because it's a little too wide. There. That looks a little bit better because it wasn't matching the bottom of the, There. Perfect. How do I save that? Enter. There we go. We can actually group this down. Let's merge with below. There we go. So, yeah, that's not good for them. That's not looking good, Steve Bannon going to jail, of course, doesn't look good for them. Lots of bad stuff. And the reaction of your typical right-winger is not to examine what's wrong and reevaluate their leaders and see why it is their leaders keep acting like criminals, and maybe do a little bit of self-examination as to, what's going on and what they believe, any shit like that. Nope, that's not their reaction at all. The reaction of your typical right-winger is to, in this case, threaten violence, which is exactly what we saw. Right. Let's see. You know what? I did a bunch of stuff here and I messed up I forgot which pencil I was using. I think I was just using just the straight up pencil 2. I think I was using that one. So we'll find out. So it might take a few minutes of me adjusting back to where I was the other day here, folks. Sorry about that. So, of course, this is the typical right-wing reaction, is to threaten violence. Like, let's remember that this is sort of their go-to reaction for pretty much anything. Whenever a right-winger gets mad at something, it's usually not, it's usually like they don't sort of whine and cry. They what they do is they don't do what leftists do. That is, leftists when they get mad at something will typically like bitch and moan for a little while, maybe go out and do a few protests, and then usually just forget about it. And that just seems to be what happens when something goes, when something that left wing people don't like. They'll go out, they'll protest a little while, you know, they might go out into the streets or something like that. And if their protests don't actually result in any, visible market, measurable improvement to their lives or like an address to the problem that they were trying to fix, they just sort of give up. And that's sort of the pattern. Sometimes that does result in some change. Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time it'll result in just some limited small changes. For example, 2020, lots of the George Floyd protests resulted in some policy changes in some police, departments around the country. But has there been any sustained systemic change in regards to police violence? No, not really. Police are still out there beating the crap out of people and shooting people and killing unarmed black people and taking away people's rights, shit like that. Still happens. Yeah, it would say it's an issue that's brought up more in the media and stuff like that. And in a couple of police departments, maybe some policies got changed and, Derek Chauvin went to prison, so I guess that counts. But no actual systemic change. Right wingers don't do that. Right wingers will, whine and cry like little babies on the internet, and then instead of going out and protesting, they show up with guns and threaten people. They're it's sort of like violence is a call to violence, and like which leads to actual real life violence is sort of their go-to method of protesting. Instead of protesting, they show up with guns. They threaten to kill people. They threaten to rape people. They try to kidnap and murder politicians, that kind of thing. They show up and throw a bottle of cocktails at the headquarters of their political opposition. They get into fights. They take to the streets with a bunch of other like-minded people wearing yellow T-shirts and stuff like that, specifically to go out and beat up their opposition. The right wing is violent. They just fucking are, right? And that's kind of what we saw right after the FBI raided Donald Trump for stealing top secret documents, which he fucking did, and now is like, trying to like now Donald Trump is currently doing all these legal maneuvers asking for a special master, shit like that. It's not going to help him. He's still, he's still pretty much screwed. It's just going to take a little longer now. The first reaction from the right wing was, it's go time, right? Thousands of people going on the internet screaming about how it's time to start a second civil war and to go out and murder Democrats and, murder leftists in the streets with all of their guns. And that is sort of been a thing that we've been seeing more and more of over the last, I would say 10 years. I really started noticing this uptick in violent rhetoric like this, like when Obama was elected. Like, it sort of has always been a thing, don't get me wrong, it's sort of always been there in the background, right? But back in the 90s and during the Bush 2 administration, it was more like the cranks and the crazies would say shit like this. It's time to blah, blah, blah. Like those like sort of Second Amendment right-winger sort of people who think that the reason for the Second Amendment is so that you can like revolt against the government. Those people. The people that think they want to have their AR-15s because they're afraid of, they're afraid of a leftist Democrat throwing them all in FEMA camps. And that's why they want to keep their fucking, rifle submachine guns or whatever the fuck they are, right? Those people. You always kind of saw that in the background, really, for decades. I mean, they were around when I was in high school, if I remember, and I'm pretty sure they were around before that. Right. But they were the crazies. They were, not, and it just seems like now, well, it only took, 30 years or whatnot for the crazies to actually become the mainstream. And it really is because of, I think, the internet. I really think it was because of, not specifically the internet, social media, the rise in social media. So now everybody has their own little platform. I mean, I'm doing the same thing right here with this stream. I have my platform and I'm expressing my opinion, and that's kind of a great thing. But at the same time, it also allows crazy people a wider audience. Whereas in the past, if you were a nut like this, you were limited in how many people you could influence. You would have to do something like create a newsletter or a zine or something like that. Like go out and, Xerox a bunch of shit and then like hand it out to people, that kind of thing. Maybe if you were completely like, a little bit more well off or something, you would like do like a sort of like pirate radio kind of thing. Maybe you might do like public access TV show. That's how Alex Jones got his start, actually. Alex Jones got his start on fucking public access, believe it or not, back then. You know, maybe that's what you would do. Maybe you would maybe you'd go off and, you'd do talks or something like that if you started getting a little famous and you'd like write a book, that kind of thing. But you were generally, people would have to seek you out, you know. It wasn't a thing that you could stumble across, and that's sort of what we have here on the internet. Now anybody can go make a YouTube video like we're doing now. Anybody can put up a thing on Facebook or they can go on TikTok and, seems like it just might randomly get shared around, and then suddenly 100,000 people have watched your video about how you want to go start a civil war and murder Democrats because, like, I don't know, critical race theory or something, right? And that's why it's like, plus you got things like that. You have things like QAnon, weird ass cults and shit that people, a political cult. QAnon is most definitely a political cult. Although it has, I don't know, maybe starting to become its own religion, kind of, sort of. We've done some streams on QAnon in the past, but it's like anything. It's a continuously evolving, movement that should not be ignored, should be exposed and laughed at, for all of its ridiculous, paranoid silliness as much as possible, right? But millions of people believe this shit. Millions of people think that that all of the Democrats in the world are baby raping, Satanists that kidnap children and crack their skulls open and drink their adrenochrome and peel their faces off and dance in the moonlight or whatever, and then go out and vote Democrat. Like, that's there's millions of people that believe this shit. Millions of people that believe the conspiracy theories. So we started to see. I wanted to do. That's my intro, by the way. I wanted to do a quick sort of review of some of these videos that we saw on TikTok. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, good, you can. Let me put this down in the chat. Here's the first link that we're going to. This is from Indy 100, which is one of those stupid, like, this is like one of those like ridiculous fucking content dump type websites that just like clickbaity type websites, but it does have a pretty good compilation of Trump tards here. Threatening civil war. Let me just turn on my window. That's the wrong one. Here we go. Trump fanatics are flooding TikTok with threats of civil war. So, pretty interesting stuff. I'm going to skip past their articles and shit like that, but here's one of them. I think we saw this guy last time. This comes from somebody named Michelle in Twitter, who has, compiled a lot of these lunatics for us. And I want to watch and react to some of these because you're going to start to see a little bit of a pattern following like what these people say. Like, they all kind of have this same diluted idea of what a second civil war would actually be and why they think they could win one. So I think I've watched this one already, but let's watch it again because these are like literally only a few minutes long each. So,
Well, hey, don't mind me. Just getting ready for my IRS audit. I know this is about to come. Listen, I'm just like you. I seen what.
so why did he say IRS audit? Because part of the bill that recently passed, the watered down version of the infrastructure bill that finally did get passed, that the Democrats kind of tricked the Republicans into passing, right? Part of that is to is to hire a couple thousand. I think it was something like 80,000 IRS agents, right? Why is that a big deal? Well, it's because for years, all through the Trump years and even through some of the Obama years, the IRS has been critically understaffed. Okay, and it has not. So when you don't have enough people in your department, they can't actually do their job correctly, right? And that was sort of the Republicans kind of did that on purpose. They purposely understaffed the IRS because it takes a lot of time, people, and resources in order to do audits of rich people. Basically, in order to audit someone like Donald Trump, it takes an entire team of people to go through all of the paperwork and find it and all that shit. Versus to audit somebody like me, it could take one person because I don't own millions and millions of dollars worth of assets. I have like a house and like a car and a 401k. That's it. I don't have like fucking, 20 businesses that failed and properties all around the world and all this other shit. So for the last couple years, the last like fucking 8 to 10 years, right? The IRS has just been going after little people. They've just been going after people like you and me, people in the middle class. Trying to squeeze water out of a stone, right? And now that they have the actual staff, they'll be able to go after people like Jeff Bezos and Amazon and rich people. People tax cheats like Donald Trump, people like Trump who are taking their tax properties, claiming that they're worth like less than they actually are when they pay taxes, and then when they go to sell them, claiming that they're worth way more than they actually are. Like that's basically what Donald Trump was investigated for in New York. Of course, the New York Attorney General is a chicken shit and decided not to go through with the fucking, prosecution there. So that's what they're talking about. This guy, of course, because on the right wing they spun that because they had to say that they're armed IRS agents. Well, here's the thing, right? The IRS has an enforcement wing. And, like all officers, right, law enforcement officers, they are armed. Yeah, if they come to arrest somebody, they come armed, right? So all the right-wing news channels spun it and said that Biden was hiring 86,000 armed IRS agents, which is not the true at all. That's not true at all. So the conspiracy theory now for people like fucking Redneck McGee over here is that they think that the IRS has like an army of 86,000 armed guys are going to show up at your house and, throw you in the can if you messed up on your taxes. And that's simply not true. And it just goes to show that, no matter how ridiculous the political spin is, no matter when you read something like that and you go, that's not true, right? There's always going to be somebody out there that believes it. Propaganda doesn't have to be true. Propaganda just has to be emotionally resonant for people to permanently believe it for the rest of their lives. Let's watch a little more.
What happened to Trump?
Oh yeah, what did he just say?
I'm just like you. I seen what happened to Trump. Yeah, it's go time.
We've seen what happened to Trump. It's go time. Well, what happened to Trump? This happened right after the FBI showed up and, didn't even arrest. Now, so this is like Donald Trump has not been arrested. All they did was show up and search his house for shit that they knew was there, for documents that they knew were there, that it turns out we've learned a lot since that initial raid. Turns out that they've been trying to get these documents from him, government documents that do not belong to Donald Trump. They've been trying to get them for a year. They knew he had them, right? He sends a letter saying that we returned them all when they clearly didn't. So he lied to the government about that, right? And now it turns out after they go there that tons of them are missing, right? Something like 45 like empty folders of material that's missing. They don't even know what the fuck happened to it. Right. So that's what this guy, of course we didn't know this at the time, but really honestly, are you surprised by any of that? I'm not surprised by that at all. When I first heard Donald Trump had government, top secret fucking documents, that's exactly what I assumed. I assumed like, oh shit, a bunch of them are going to go missing. He's either selling them or people or spies and shit are ripping them off, and that's what it looks like is actually happening. At the least, he's criminally incompetent and should be thrown in prison for allowing top secret material to fall into enemy hands, right? And if it turns out he actually sold this shit, I mean, goddamn. Normal people like you and me would not just go to prison, we'd be executed for that. Okay, that's right. That's one of the few crimes. Espionage is one of the few crimes that the federal government can execute you for. They wouldn't do that to Donald Trump, the ex-president and shit. But at the very least, his ass should be in fucking prison for just having those things, for allowing them to go missing like that. This guy's ready to fucking. Yeah, this guy says, "Oh, it's go time." Yeah, he's ready to go kill people. He's ready to go kill people to defend the right of an ex-president to steal government documents and allow them to fall into enemy hands. It's unfucking believable. Moving on.
Everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. The Democrat Nazis have gone too far.
Democrat Nazis. Which is another thing that you'll see in a lot of these videos whenever you talk to the far, far right. None of them actually know what Nazis are. None of them know what communists really are. None of them know any of that. They don't understand distinction. There's no distinction between the far, because to them it's all the same. To them it's all just authoritarianism. And if you're a communist, you must obviously also be a Nazi. Like, you must also obviously be a fascist. Like, they don't understand, because this guy, I mean, he has no idea about, like, diametrically opposed political ideologies. Democrat Nazi. It just doesn't make any sense, number one. And number two, it's, like, not even close to being true, right? But to him, they're the bad guys, so they must obviously be Nazis. And it's like, it's weird. It's like these people speak a different language, right? And you have to kind of, in order to understand it, you have to dumb yourself down. And you have to think like an idiot in order to understand this idiot's fucking speech here. Anyway, moving on.
Just look at what they've said in the Senate in the past. Look at all the ammunition the IRS is buying up. Look at the new classification they come out with the MVEs. I fit that description quite nicely.
NVEs? Not sure what an NVE actually is, but let's take a look. IRS NVE. What is it even talking about? Did he say MBE or NVE? Maybe MBE. Non-filers. Okay. So it's got something to do with people who don't pay their taxes. Alright, so you fit that description? You don't pay your taxes? Yeah, well, have fun in jail, man. I don't, here's the thing, right? Nobody likes taxes, right? Taxes are bullshit. Everybody hates them. You gotta pay them. You gotta pay them because if you don't have taxes, you don't have a society, right? Taxes in and of themselves are not a bad thing. Let's make this a little smaller so that we can actually do some artwork here, because this is supposed to be a politics and art stream, and I'm not actually drawing. So let's just move this down a little. Plus, we don't have to look at all these ads and shit on here all the time. There we go. We'll just move that like that. taxes are not pleasant. Excuse me. They are necessary for the function of, your society. And if you don't have taxes, you don't have a society. I mean, how do you expect to pay for things like schools and, not just roads? That's the thing, libertarians should always make fun of you because, oh, who's going to pay for the roads? Yes, the roads, and then also the schools, and then also the electricity and the sewage systems and all that. And you think your electrical grid was created by, you know, PG&E? No, no, it wasn't. It was created by the state. The state pays for that shit, right? They just a private power company just sort of like runs it, right? The state pays for these things. You know what I mean? It comes out of your tax dollars. That's the thing about utilities. There's something that everybody uses, and in some of the states actually do have state-owned utilities as well. Los Angeles and the DWP. It's sort of like a quasi, own like quasi private public company, right? Well, if you don't have taxes, you can't pay for any of this shit. You know what I mean? So, what kind of like world do you want to live in? You know, where basically what would end up happening is that the rich people would not only own everything, but they'd be the only people that have access to anything. So, you know, what we would live in? We would live in like say Kenya. In many places in Africa, public schools are not a thing. It's like you have to pay to go to school, right? Like in many places in Africa, they don't have things like 100% free guaranteed K through 12. That doesn't exist. You either you pay for your kid to go to school or your kid doesn't go to school, right? Same kind of thing like, they don't have things like public infrastructure, right? Like anywhere in this country, if you're a developer and you want to go like develop at a certain, place, there's a road that goes to your lot. And if you build it, it's like you know, the state takes over. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of places in the world, like in I use Africa because there's lots of places in Africa that still aren't developed that is to the same extent that we are. They don't have that. You know what I mean? It's all 100% privately owned, and that's the big thing that people don't think about when it comes to Africa. Everybody says like, from the right wing, you get people like Donald Trump calling places in Africa like, shithole countries, right? Countries in Africa are highly, highly capitalistic. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of these places where people like where Donald Trump would say that they're s-hole countries, right? A lot of them have many of the sort of libertarian small governments that people who wear his red hats would really desire. You know what I mean? And it's because these countries are run by oligarchs that take all the money and, they collect all the taxes, they take all the money for themselves and they don't spend any of it on the people. That's exactly what would happen here if we were to follow, the sort of conservative libertarian ideal of extremely low taxes and small government. You'd have countries where kids can't go to school. You have to pay to go to school. You'd have places where all the roads are private. You got to pay to like drive on the roads or any shit like that. You have to pay if you want a fire department to show up at your house. You got to pay them. And not just like a yearly fee or some shit like that, right? It would be like hiring your own fire department. You'd have to like call them up and pay for their fucking, like, just like any other service, like you're getting your carpets cleaned or some shit like that. Here comes the fire department. And if you can't afford it, too bad. House gets burned down. They'll show up and they'll put out the fire at your neighbor's house, but not your house because you didn't pay. Same thing with the police. Somebody comes, steals from you, whatever, right? Comes and like, or does something worse. You want to get them investigated, you have to pay for it, right? That's what would happen, And that's the kind of country that these people want. This is the country they want because, I mean, ultimately the reason why is because racism. That's really the reason why. But I think that might be a subject for another stream. So let's move on a little more here.
Yeah, if you followed me on my other account, follow me on this one as well. Don't let them shut me up. Every time I come across one of you who have lost your account due to the Democrat Nazis on the Democrat Nazi app, I follow you.
Yeah, okay, and that's one more thing I want to comment on with this guy. You notice at the end here, he's like, follow my other account. Don't let them shut me up. Like, he thinks that he's somehow important, that he's like the linchpin of this revolution or whatever. And that's kind of something that you see that happens with a lot of conspiracy theorists, right? Is that they sort of get this like, they get this sort of like vision in their heads of themselves, like their own egos like sort of get a little expanded, you know, because they think that they're like they have the super secret info that's going to stop the Illuminati or whatever. You know, they think that they're like vitally important to the future of mankind or some shit because they watched a couple of YouTube videos and read some shit on fucking Facebook. Right? That's what it is. You see that a lot from these types of people. Like just what he just said, don't let them shut me up. It's critically important that you follow me on my other channel. And yeah, sure it is, buddy. Get the fuck out of here. Right? It's such bullshit, dude. It's such bullshit by... You know what it is? Conspiracy theories are basically from people... People get into conspiracy theories when they don't... They feel like they don't have control of their own lives. And looking at this guy... Yeah, pretty sure this dude's working a shit job someplace. Pretty sure he's in a ton of fucking debt. Probably a ton of credit card debt. Something like that. Pretty sure he, is boozing it every Friday night, sucking beers until the fucking light of dawn and going down and getting turned down by floozies at his local watering hole. Pretty sure that this dude is feeling like, yeah, my life fucking sucks. And it's all because of those evil, commie, Democrat Nazis. Right. I mean, that is a big part of it, too. A big part of belief in conspiracy theories is trying to find someone to blame for your own shitty life and the bad fucking decisions that you made in it. That's definitely a thing. There's a couple more here. Let's see. This dude's kind of a pansy, but I don't want to... There was one that I want to watch. I think we've seen this guy before, too. Let's skip him. Let's see. Let's watch this dude right here. Here we go.
So yesterday I decided to run my name on the DOD's website. Do a background check on myself. And I'm proud to say that I am on the FBI, CIA, Interpol, and the DOJ's watch list. Same thing, our forefathers were considered extremists.
Wow. So, I wonder what this guy did to get himself on all of those watch lists. Did he just make videos? I wonder if this dude is on the no-fly list. That'd be interesting. I kind of hope he is. Because somebody like this, who's proud to be an extremist, should probably not be allowed to fly on an airplane. Who knows? He might try to fucking hijack it or something. Let's move on.
Forefathers were considered extremists. They actually killed their children, the Brits did, because they signed the Declaration of Independence. They sacrifice so much for our freedoms today that are getting stripped away, by the alphabet mafia.
Well, you know what? Let me give you a proposal here, Mr. Proud Extremist. Why don't you and all your dipshit extremist friends go off and sign your own Declaration of Independence? Where are you going to do it? Why don't you guys go off and start your own country? Nobody's stopping you. You can't do it in our country. This is the United States. If you don't want to be a part of it, feel free to get the hell out. there's plenty of unoccupied land down in Antarctica that you can live in. It's, used to be cold. It's starting to warm up now thanks to people like you, right? So there you go. You got an entire continent all by yourself where you and your dipshit friends can go and have all the Second Amendment rights you want. And, you could just do it way the hell down there. Why don't you guys go do that? No, you want to have the good land. You want to move to the good parts of the country. You want to go to the Pacific Northwest to start your little, white ethno state. You want to take the good land, right, where all the good farmland is. Well, too fucking bad for you. That land is already taken. So, those are your options there, buddy. Right? Your options are either get the hell out, right, or shut the fuck up. So, which one's it going to be? Of course, he's threatening everybody else here. This guy thinks that he and with his 55-year-old bald-headed ass, right, who probably couldn't run a mile if it was like a fucking Doberman chasing him, right? This guy thinks that him and his friends with his small arms are going to somehow revolt and take over the United States. That's his option. So his option, not, because see, that's what the founding fathers actually did, right? The founding fathers revolted against tyranny and took the homes that they lived in, right, where they were being, exploited by colonial power, right, and decided to kick the colonial power out. Well, it's a little bit different here. You cannot kick the United States military out of the United States because this is the United States, right? So that's not going to fucking happen, right? And, the minute these people start with their stupid ass fucking revolution, right? The minute they actually start with the violence or whatever, the establishment right wing and the non-extremist Republicans are going to turn against them in a nanosecond, and it'll all be over, So let's keep in mind when these people talk about a second civil war, everybody thinks like when they say it, they think it's going to be this army that they're going to raise an army of I guess you would call them of different different groups, almost like a confederation army, I guess you would say. That's what they think that they're going to do, right? In real life, it would look more like Al Qaeda. In real life, it would not be an army clashing in a battlefield where these people would be fighting tanks and shit like that. In real life, it would be them planting roadside bombs just like Al Qaeda, just like the Taliban, just like ISIS, right? They would essentially be terrorists. Well, do you think the American public is going to support terrorism, especially homegrown terrorism with a highly racist undercurrent? Is this what these people really actually think is going to happen? I got news for you guys. It's not. Never, ever, ever. So, anyway, lots of deluded people here on the right wing. Let's continue this because this is only 30 seconds left in this one.
Mafia, by the pronoun mafia, by my feelings mafia, and by a tyrannical government that are overstepping their bounds for many, many years now.
See, here's the other thing. Right? So he just equated, what did he say? The my feelings mafia, right? The pronoun mafia, and the tyrannical government. When was the last time the FBI or the CIA or the police even showed up and arrested somebody for not using the right pronouns? Has that ever happened? Right? Has that ever happened ever in the history of ever? Because that's not in the United States. It has not happened in Canada. That is not a law in Canada, as much as Jordan Peterson would like you to think it is. It is not a law in any European country that I can think of that if you misgender someone, if you call them he instead of she, whatever, that you can go to jail. No. You do not go to jail for any of that. You may get kicked off of Twitter for harassing somebody like that, but getting kicked off of Twitter is not the same thing as going to jail. You may get fired from your job for doing that if you continuously harass a customer or another coworker, right, by continuously misgendering them when they tell you over and over and over what their preferred pronouns are. You may get fired from your job from that, rightfully so, but that is not the same thing as the government arresting you for that, right? That's the thing these people do not understand. Okay. When a private company or something like that, right, punishes you for speech they don't allow, that is not the same thing as the government punishing you for speech that they don't like. Private company has that right. Your job has a right to fire you for whatever reason, right? It doesn't matter. They don't even have to say what the reason is. This is partially thanks to, conservatives and Republicans who put those laws in place. The at will employment. That's something that the people on the left and labor unions and stuff want to get rid of, right? So this is even according to conservative business principles, right? That's a thing. You can get fired for anything. It doesn't fucking matter, right? So you can get fired because they don't like the way, they can't tell you this, but, like if you just, treat somebody the wrong way or you say the wrong thing or, you cannot get hired for all kinds of fucking reasons as well, including the way you look, which is bullshit, which this is something that should be illegal if it isn't in a lot of states, right? So that's, that has nothing to do with your freedom of speech, right? Your job can and will fire you for political speech that they don't like. And you know what? Good luck trying to prove that's why you got fired. You'll never be able to, right? You can and will get fired for harassing people, right? And it's like that has nothing to do with your freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech is only when the government persecutes you for saying shit they don't like, right? That's really the only time, that's when the police come and they arrest you for protesting. That is infringing on your freedom of speech, right? When, some politician uses his friends in the government to, like, either get the police to investigate you or to, like, have the IRS investigate you or something like that because you're a political opponent, that's infringing on your freedom of speech, right? When the cops show up and you just get arrested at a protest when you didn't break any laws, that's infringing on your freedom of speech. Shit like that. Right, your First Amendment. Private corporation is not able to do that. Right, they cannot do that. All they can do is remove you from their platform. Right, and refuse to do business with you, which is actually them. By doing that, that's them invoking their freedom of speech. Corporation, right? A business, a corporation, an individual person. You know, they have the ability to exercise their freedom of speech as well by not associating themselves with you. And that's exactly what this guy, but these people, they conflate those things. They don't understand. They think that, oh, because people get pissed at me because I make fun of trans people and I post fucking the helicopter meme and shit on and Facebook took it down. Facebook took down my helicopter meme or whatever. That's the evil Democrat Nazis suppressing my freedom of speech. It's complete bullshit. Remember, you have to think like an idiot when you talk to these people. When you look at, when you review their social media and shit like that, when you watch their videos, you have to think like a moron, or else it doesn't make any sense. Because it's fucking laughably stupid. Because people like this and the guy before this have literally not spent 5 minutes in their entire lives examining what any of this shit actually means. They're just repeating stuff somebody told them. Let's remember that. These people are just repeating shit that they saw on YouTube videos and they saw on InfoWars and that they saw on Facebook or whatever. They're just repeating it. They're not actually trying to think about what it actually is. And, is it actually true? What does it mean? None of that shit matters to this guy or the previous guy or the next guy we're going to watch. The only thing that matters is how does it make them feel good. Moving on.
Okay? So I'm doing the right thing by speaking out against them. That's how you know, because I'm on their watch list. They don't want us to be a republic. They want to keep us a controlled democracy. Fuck them.
They don't want us to be a republic. They want to keep us a controlled democracy. You know, I think that most people in this country, if you were to ask most people in this country, is democracy a good thing? You would get yes. But just listen to what that guy just said, right? That guy just said that they don't want us to be a republic, they want us to be a controlled democracy, right? What is he even talking about? You know, when he says that, when he says controlled democracy. Well, basically, he's kind of like inferring that the masses are brainwashed sheep, kind of sort of. You see this from a lot of conspiracy theorists too, wake up sheeple, that kind of thing. And, because the thing is, we are a republic. We are a republic, right? We are actually not a one-to-one democracy. We're a representative democracy. We vote for a representative that goes and represents us, right? We have the technology to become a pure, complete democracy. Now, as a teenager, as a young man, I would have said, yes, let's do it, right? But now I understand why you don't want a pure democracy. And it's not just because of mob rule. It's because people are stupid and can be manipulated. And this guy right here is a perfect example of that. Now, what I just said sounded like really elitist, didn't it? But hear me out, okay? Have you ever noticed how whenever a celebrity runs for office, they always win? Have you ever noticed that? Like, somebody like, Ronald Reagan, for example. Ronald Reagan in 1984 won every single state except for, like, Massachusetts. It was ridiculous, right? Ronald Reagan was not even that good of a president. In fact, Ronald Reagan, if you go back and examine what he did and stuff like that, he was kind of a shitball president who, broke the law in a lot of ways. Did a lot of very skeezy and borderline illegal things that some people should be in prison for. Not a, kind of a, I would say, I wouldn't say that he wasn't an effective president. He was definitely an effective president. Not a nice person, and not somebody who was looking out for the greater American public. He most definitely was in bed with the far right wing and the corporations in this country. Especially conservative business interests. That was Ronald Reagan's presidency in a nutshell. Is giant giveaway to corporations, right? But people loved him. People loved him, and why? Why did they love him? Because he was an actor. Because he was famous. He was a famous Hollywood actor, right? And he parlayed that fame into a political career. And we've seen that happen over and over and over. That's why people voted for fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger in California, right? The fucking Terminator became governor in California. California's blue state. It always votes blue. It goes blue all the time. They vote for a Republican governor. Why? Because he's a fucking rich and famous movie star. And people like fucking Conan the Barbarian. I think it's a badass movie. People like Terminator. Terminator 2 is one of the best movies ever. And so they go, well, I'm going to vote for Arnie. And you know what? The thing is, Arnie was not a bad governor. I will not say that he was a bad governor at all. He had some decisions that I didn't agree with, shit like that, right? He was at least, it's seemingly on the outside honest, right? But he didn't have anything special. He didn't bring anything to the table. He didn't really do anything for California. Not really. I think he cut some taxes or some shit like that. That was it. His administration was pretty much uneventful. He didn't solve any problems, right? He didn't have any big time, ideas or even start any huge programs that like addressed any of the issues that we were facing even at that time. He really didn't do shit. Why do people like him? Because he's a fucking celebrity. Same thing you have in Herschel Walker in Georgia versus Raphael Warnock, right? Herschel Walker is a fucking imbecile. The guy's a moron. The guy could barely speak. You could barely understand what the hell he's saying like half the time because he just rambles on about all this weird random bullshit that makes no fucking sense in reality. You know, there's he's like has a history of domestic violence. Like apparently admitted to pulling a gun on his ex-wife, putting it to her head, shit like that. And he's got like illegitimate children. He's got all kinds of baggage that would traditionally sink any other politician, right? And, Raphael Warnock should be running circles around this guy. But they're within, like, 3 points of each other in the last poll that I saw. Why do people like Herschel Walker? Because he's a celebrity. Because he's an ex-football player. That's why. Right? So people are fucking idiots. People will vote for anything because, it makes them feel good. All you got to do is get up and say like the right. So I understand that, yeah, a direct democracy is not the way to go. Not at this time. We as a species, as a human species, are not mature enough to have direct democracy, right? But that doesn't mean that we should not have more democratic principles. That we should not strive to have a bit more representation in our representative democracy. For example, the Electoral College. We have no reason to have the Electoral College, right? We have two candidates. We have the technology now that we can tabulate all of the votes directly from every person, right? Part of the reason why we had an Electoral College is because back in 1787 or whenever, right, when you did an election across, like, all 13 states at the time, it would take weeks and weeks and weeks to not only count all the votes, but for all of that information to filter across, because all they had were horses back then. And, you have to count all the votes and then send a letter via fucking Pony Express and shit. And it could take fucking, like, 2.5 months and shit to figure out who won the election, right? So it was sort of like, well, we have these electors here. They just send the electors and et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to have an exact count. You just have to have whoever won that state, whoever had the most here. And that was part of the reason. Also, let's not, forget part of the reason was also to put a layer of protection in front of the popular votes so that people like Donald Trump didn't get elected. Let's not forget that was also part of the rationale for having a electoral college. But obviously that part ain't fucking working no more, so why do we even have it? Right? So now we should just, it should just be whoever gets the most votes wins. Why? Why don't we do that? So there are different, we should strive for democracy, But yeah, there is definitely a good reason to have a republic here. But if you were to listen to what that guy just said, the way that he just said it, he made it sound like, democracy, like we're a controlled democracy. Like that's all part of the plan by the evil elites. Let's listen to it one more time. What did he just say? We're a controlled democracy, right?
They want to keep us a controlled democracy. Fuck them.
Right. They want to keep us,
on their watch list. They don't want us to be a republic. They want to keep us a controlled democracy. Fuck them.
So you listen to that, see. To this guy, it's all part of the conspiracy. He thinks that it's like we're a controlled democracy because, like, the evil reptilian Jewish overlords and shit are like putting chips into people's heads and like stealing elections and stuff. So it's like you got to remember, it's like, even you have to think like, you got to remember, these people are morons, right? These people are imbeciles. They believe in ridiculous things. They believe in shit like fucking, reptilian aliens and like hidden bases in the center of the earth. And microchips in people's heads controlling them and giving them fucking, like, the coronavirus and shit like that. You gotta remember, like, these people believe wacky fucking things, right? So it's like, that he's not criticizing, like, democracy because it's mob rule in No. He's criticizing because he thinks the fucking Rothschilds are like, are like are like using Bernie Sanders to like fucking implement a socialist like worldwide takeover, directed by fucking like Jews who live on a space station built by fucking like Zeta Reticulans and shit. That's what he thinks. So just keep that in mind. These people are crazy. Let's go down a little bit. Here's a guy with a very attractive looking porn stash. Let's see what Porn Stash Man has to say.
Dear Combat Area
Oh, come
Commandment
on. There we go.
Generals.
All right. We got to start that over.
There's 12 of you guys.
YouTube messed
Combat Area Commandment Generals.
All right, Dear Combat Area Commandment Generals. Okay. I don't know why it paused right there twice in a row, but anyway.
There's 12 of you guys. You are witnessing open treason against your country. We, the people, ask you to do something about it. Now,
Okay. Witnessing open treason against the country. Of course, he's referring to Joe Biden being democratically elected. He's not actually referring to the actual treason that happened, which was Donald Trump trying to steal the election by having his cronies in Congress object to certain states so that, the election will go back to the House of Representatives. And then, and then the state legislator, so they could decide that it should go to the state legislators, so that way all the Republican state legislators could vote in favor of him. He's not referring to that. He's referring to the fact that Joe Biden got, 8 million more votes than Donald Trump, and he can't handle the fact that he fucking lost. So that somehow is like, the results of a democratically, certified election. That is what this dude is referring to as treason, not the actual people who actually did commit treason. So, moving on.
I know a couple things that most Americans don't know. There's only 2 people that give...
There we go. I like how, he just straight up said it. I know things that most Americans don't know. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's a big part of the conspiracy. We've said this over and over, and it just keeps, it's bearing fruit. It's like he thinks that he has the super secret info. I know things other Americans don't know. No, you don't, buddy. You don't know shit. You're not special. Right. You're not special just because you watched InfoWars. Right? Just because you listened to Red Ice Radio. Right? Just because you went on the High Strangeness subreddit, right, and talked about government conspiracy theories. You're not special at all. Right? That's what conspiracy theories are all about. Making themselves feel good because they got nothing in their lives. Maybe if this dude would shave off his fucking stupid-ass mustache, girls would talk to him. Probably not. Moving on.
Give you orders. Secretary of Defense.
All right, let's rewind that.
The president. There's only 2 people that give you orders. Secretary of Defense, the President of the United States, who was known to have committed treason when we all found out about it during the Trump-Ukrainian phone call. The public had...
So, he's talking about Biden. So, Biden is known to have committed treason when we found out about it through the Trump-Ukrainian phone call. I just want to point out that, so we have that phone call, right? That phone call was Donald Trump calling President Zelensky, way back in what was it, 2019, I think. So this is before the war started, of course, right? And Donald Trump was pressuring Zelensky to come up with some dirt on Joe Biden. That's what that phone call was. The phone call was, we want you to declare. He basically said to Zelensky, we want you to declare that you are doing an investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, right? And you don't actually have to do the investigation. We just want you to declare that you're doing it. That's what that phone call was, right? And if you don't do this, we're going to withhold military aid to you, which should hit home a little bit harder now because Russia decided to invade the Ukraine. And that military aid actually could have helped them prepare a little better. You know, if they would have got that way back in the past, would have made a difference? I don't know. But it kind of shows why that military aid was important because, you know, they were on the brink of war and shit like that, right? That's what that phone call was. Now, I want to point out that this guy, Pornstash Man here, seems to have taken away the wrong things from that phone call, right? And this is the power of propaganda here. Okay, that call was enough to get Donald Trump impeached, and at any other point of time in history, in American history, would have gotten him convicted. Okay, because he did it. Donald Trump did it. Donald Trump was guilty of that. He was using the state, the power of his office and policies, right? He was using that in order to blackmail someone into getting dirt on his political opponent, right? That is 100% like illegal. Anybody else who did shit like that would be in prison for that. You're not, you know, if you were like the governor of some place or a mayor or something like that, you go to prison for that. Okay. You know, if you're anybody but the president, you know, the president cannot get thrown in prison while they're in office. The only thing you can do to a president is impeach him. And then after he's impeached, he can be arrested for shit like that. Right. The only reason Donald Trump didn't get impeached is because the Republicans are chicken shit and didn't want to pull the lever on it. You know, because he was protected by the Republicans in Congress. Right. That's the only reason why he wasn't convicted of that. Okay. This guy, of course, took away the exact opposite message. Why? Why? Because he doesn't know the truth. Because he feeds himself. He gets his information from conspiracy theory sites and right-wing media, places like One America Network and Fox News, who have fed his brain full of lies so that where he can, where they've effectively spun it around, right, and claimed and fund like the event where we have proof that Donald Trump essentially committed treason. They've spun that around and said that the victim of that is the one who actually committed treason. That's the thing. It's like we live on different planets from this guy, right? There's really nothing, even if you were to take, that phone call and put it right in front of him and explain to this dude exactly why that phone call, that perfect phone call that Trump keeps saying, actually implements Trump, that it actually implicates Trump. Implicates Trump. And essentially proves why he's fucking guilty. This dude still wouldn't get it. All right? There's no reasoning with people like this. This is why voting is so fucking important, because this asshole votes. Moving on.
Has known about Biden's treason since 2019. How long have you guys known about it? Now, you combat area commanders, 11 of you are Trump appointees.
Okay.
Charles Flynn, you were appointed by Biden. But I know you're still a loyalist.
So what is this guy implying here? Right. So that's the other thing. That's another thing to remember to these people. There's only tribal loyalty. He's basically saying right here, he's saying, okay, you were appointed by Trump, you should be loyal to Trump. And it's like, no, this guy has no idea how the military works. It's like you don't take an oath to a president. You take an oath to the country, to the government of the United States, right? And that oath says you follow whoever the president is, the current president. So it doesn't fucking matter if it's like, oh, well, you were appointed by Trump. It's like, no, and so that's part of, why doesn't he understand this? Because this is part of his worldview, To conservatives, loyalty is like more important than like, ideology. It's more important than ethics. It's more important than like, it's more important than anything. It's like they're loyal to their fucking leader. They're not loyal to the country. They're not loyal to the principles of the United States. They don't give a fuck about the Constitution, right? They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about It's like, no. When you join the military, you take that oath to uphold the Constitution, not the president. And when the president disobeys the Constitution, you follow the Constitution, right? That's what you really, but they don't understand this. It's all tribalism to these people, right? They don't get this because it's like, well, I mean, there's lots of different reasons why, and we could go into that. That would be a big, we could probably make an entire fucking stream of all the reasons why they think that, But that's definitely the truth, and this is like what makes them so fucking dangerous. This guy's ready to throw away the Constitution, wad it up like used tissues, like toilet paper, toss it out the fucking window to save Donald Trump. And he's going on the internet and urging the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right, and the area commanders, or whatever the fuck they're called, I guess the generals and shit. He's urging the military, essentially, to revolt against the current sitting president. That's sedition. What this guy is doing right here in this TikTok video is sedition, right? Sedition used to be illegal, during times of war. You could get thrown in jail for that shit. So, yeah, where's the FBI arresting this fucking asshole, right? They can't do that, of course, because that is infringing on his freedom of speech. Let's move on.
We have 12 generals that are loyal to Trump. The Secretary of State...
They're not loyal to Trump. They're loyal to the United States government. You are loyal to Trump. And that's why you think that these men have no integrity. Right. Thank God this guy is not in the military himself. But how many people are? How many people are? Michael Flynn, right, seems to be loyal to Trump. You remember Michael Flynn, fucking General Michael Flynn, who was, he seemed to be loyal to Trump. So it's like, yeah, that's something we really need to be aware. We need to be, aware of, and we need to, hold our government accountable for that. They should be weeding out the extremists like Michael Flynn, making sure they never even get to that level in the first place. I've got an article here about the Oath Keepers. Actually, you know what? Want to move to that? Let's move to the Oath Keeper thing, and then we'll come back to these assholes in a minute. But there was let me open this up. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this because this is relevant. This dropped in the news not that long ago. New from the ADL, leaked Oath Keepers membership list reveals hundreds of current and former law enforcement officers, members of the military, and elected officials. Right. Speaking of, extremists in the government like Michael Flynn, people who took an oath to the United States and are willing to toss that out because they think that Cheeto Mussolini McBurgerfuck, sphincter mouth ass, fucking, man, is like the second coming of fucking Jesus or whatever. Let's move. Let's roll this down a little bit. ADL also unveils interactive map displaying number of Oath Keepers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's an interactive map on here. New analysis today from the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism finds that leaked membership list for the Oath Keepers, a right-wing anti-government extremist group, includes hundreds of elected officials, law enforcement officers, members of the military, and first responders. So it comes from a group called a collective called Distributive Denial of Secrets, right? Which is basically these are the groups that found this membership data. Now 38,000 people sounds like a lot, right? And it is. But remember, this is the entire membership list, like going back all the way to 2009. There may not be 38,000 active members. These may be people that joined and then left. Because in the beginning, the Oath Keepers did not seem to be that extreme. You know, Oath Keepers were started in 2009, after Obama becomes president, of course. And it was because Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State. And the guy that started the Oath Keepers, his name was Stuart Rhodes. He really, really, really did not like Hillary Clinton. And he was a U.S. Army paratrooper and graduated from fucking Yale. And he worked for Ron Paul's 2008 presidential campaign. And then also went to work for fucking InfoWars, right? And he basically claimed in a Mother Jones article, right, says that he went from being a libertarian to a far-right extremist because actually he read this Mother Jones article and basically about a retired colonel that in the Wehrmacht, you know, which was the state that preceded Nazi Germany, who claimed that if the police had to fight Adolf Hitler, then they could have prevented the Nazis from taking power, right? And he's essentially equating Hillary Clinton with Hitler. In fact, he called her Hitlery in an infamous in a blog article that he wrote, where he thought that Hillary would try to impose a fascist dictatorship on the United States. So that's who Stuart Rhodes is, right? You know, Stuart Rhodes is a you know, tea drinking, tinfoil hat wearing wackaloon, right? And he started the Oath Keepers as and he specifically reached out to active and former military members, police officers, and first responders. So there's no surprise that so many of those people have been members of the Oath Keepers over the years, because those are specifically who the Oath Keepers go to recruit. But the funny, scary thing here is that how many of these people actually, like, they found in the current member list. So I want to read these key findings for you guys. Let me put this down in the chat for you guys here so that you can follow along if you want to read this later. Adversary Fandin, hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining, man. But let's read some of these key findings. I hate that. Don't you hate that with websites that do that? It's like, dude, just don't fucking have your shit pop up. Anyway. Alright, so that means we have to go down here. As of August 8th, the Center of Extremism has identified 373 individuals we believe are currently serving in law enforcement agencies across the country who are part of the Oath Keepers. This number is far higher than any previously identified number of extremists within law enforcement. For comparison, an ADL report released in 2021 identified 76 cases, 73 of which were unique, in which extremists were found serving in law enforcement. So, kind of a lot. 300, but if you think 373 across the whole country, not that many, right? But still, too many. ADL identified individuals we believe currently holding senior leadership in positions within their respective agencies, including at least 10 chiefs of police and 11 sheriffs. That's scary shit. Imagine you go one of these towns where the chief of police is part of the Oath Keepers, and you wanted to do a BLM rally. How do you think they'd react to that, huh? Scary stuff. In addition to those actively serving in law enforcement, ADL identified more than 1,000 individuals who we believe previously served in law enforcement.
That's no surprise. ADL Center on Extremism analysis identified 81 individuals across the country currently holding or running for public office in 2022. That scares me more than the cops. That really does, because yes, cops can oppress people and arrest them, shit like that, right, for bullshit reasons. Politicians are the ones that actually create the laws that the police enforce, and that is more of a scary thing. These individuals run the gamut from local office mayors, town council members, school board members to state representatives and senators. Scary shit that some of our senators might actually be part of the Oath Keepers, but that doesn't surprise me either. And seeing what happened on January 21st, January 6th, excuse me, right, where some of the senators seem to be coordinating with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, you know, doesn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me to find out, say, Matt Gaetz or somebody like that was part of the Oath Keepers, or at least affiliated with them, or Louis Gohmert or somebody like that. It would not surprise me, hypothetically, and I'm not saying that they are, but if we were to find out that one of those more extreme right-wing senators who were objecting to the vote counts on January 6th, if we were to find out that they were somehow affiliated with the Oath Keepers, wouldn't surprise me at all. Prior to this year's primary season, ADL confirmed 42 Oath Keepers aligned individuals were up for election for public office in 2022, consisting of 22 incumbents and 20 candidates. As of August 8th, 21 of these candidates have advanced to the general election. I think we need to know who these people are. I think they need to start naming names so that people around the country can vote out the Oath Keepers, right? Even more concerning, 4 individuals have already won their general election. Who? Tell us who. Tell us who they are. Right? Let's fucking know who these people are, so we know who we're dealing with, so we know who to target. We know who to protest against. We know who the next time there's an election who to vote out. Please tell us who they are. All right. ADL identified 117 individuals we believe currently serve in the U.S. military, an additional 11 who serve in the reserves, and 31 individuals hold civilian positions or are military contractors. That sounds scary, but, don't we have something like, 200,000 active military personnel or something like that? 117 is not that many. Distributed across the entire country or the world, If that was 117,000, that might be a problem, right? So, yeah. In addition, ADL identified 86 we believe are active firefighters, including several fire chiefs, 19 active paramedics, 31 emergency technicians in the database. So that's no surprise, really, because, the Oath Keepers have been targeting these people for a long time. So, but I thought this was interesting stuff. I thought this is relevant because the Oath Keepers is one of those groups that, let's go ahead and make this a little smaller. I do want to go back and, wrong one. I do want to go back here and, watch a little bit more of these crazy people for a little bit. So let's turn this off. But yeah, the Oath Keepers are one of these groups who actively tried to take over the country. They've been active in a lot of just right wing fucking wackaloon bullshittery over the last 10 years. They started in 2009. They were there at the fucking Bundy Ranch standoff 2014, if you remember that. They supported Cliven Bundy's fucking takeover, right, of the I think it was a fucking federal land management building, and then also at the 2016 Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, where fucking like the same people took over that wildlife refuge. The fucking Oath Keepers were there too. They have threatened civil war several times, right? in 2014. In 2016, they threatened civil war if Hillary Clinton won the election in 2016. 2019, so there was in Michigan, I think it was in Michigan in 2019, where there was some cap and trade legislation, right? And what happened is that the Republicans bailed. Like there was a vote that they were going to lose, so the Republicans just bailed and left and wouldn't show up for a vote, and so they couldn't get quorum, right? And then the governor of Michigan, I think it was Michigan. I think the government. You know what? Let me let's take a look on that. I want to make sure. Was it? Let's see. 2019 Michigan cap and trade. Let's see. No, it was like Republicans leave cap trade 2019. Yeah, oh, it was Oregon. It wasn't Michigan. Sorry, Oregon Republican senators flee Capitol to delay vote. So, yeah, that's what happened in 2019. I knew it was either Michigan or Oregon, but it was Oregon, and there was a vote on a cap and trade bill for carbon emissions, and the Republicans just left town, right, in order to not have a vote, which is a legit tactic. Okay, it is a legit tactic there. It's legal what they did. But in Oregon, the governor has the legal authority to send the police to go catch them and bring them back to force them to vote. That is within the law, right? And so the governor of Oregon said, okay, you guys are not going to vote. We're sending the police to come collect you so that you have to come vote. And the Oath Keepers basically said that we'll shoot any cops that show up if you try to enforce the law, right? All options on the table to stop cap and trade. I remember that shit. It was a threat, and the Oath Keepers basically said we're providing security for these these Republican state senators who were basically like on the lam. So yeah, that was some scary, basically threatening to shoot police officers. Let's not forget that. Also in 2020, after a BLM protest where Michael Rienal, shot somebody, and then also after when Kyle Rittenhouse killed fucking 2 people, they also threatened civil war there, right? So yeah, they're pretty fucking bad, the Oath Keepers. And then of course they were there at the January 6th riots, where they seem to be coordinating with the Proud Boys. In fact, there's a video of them hanging out with the Proud Boys the night before the attack. There's actually a video, right, of the fucking leader, Stuart Rhodes, hanging out with Enrico Tarrio. And it was because the Proud Boys had a film crew with them. Like, they had like a documentary film guy who was filming all the shit. Right, and got them meeting together the night before the attack. So there was some coordination there, and it actually is kind of looking like their contact, their handler, who was coordinating the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and shit with the Trump administration. It looks like their handler was Roger Stone. So that kind of came out in the January 6th committee hearings, right? So yeah, these are not good people. These are definitely fucking, actually trying to take over the fucking country, right? The Oath Keepers are basically a fucking terrorist organization at this point. Let's read a few comments, and then we'll continue on with Porn Stash Man. He looks pretty angry here. What do we got? Adversary Fandon, how you doing, man? I identify as a magic user, and a single fireball can take down an attack helicopter. Right. Let's see. Looks more like a Ned Flanders stash. It kind of does. This dude sort of looks like, paranoid Ned Flanders. I'd say that. Fatman TV, justice for Flint, Michigan. Yes. It's funny how we've completely forgot all about Flint, Michigan, hasn't it? Is that even still going? I think it is. I think there's still like bad water, fucking a decade later, still going. I don't know. I'd have to look up what's actually like happening with that story, but I really would not be surprised if there hasn't been very much in the way of movement, as far as getting the lead out of the water in Flint, Michigan. Somehow I doubt that that particular problem has been solved. Wipe that smug look off Brandon and Jill's face. Right. That smug look, okay. Are you talking about Biden and Jill Biden? Yeah. Justice for Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Miss. What happened in Jackson, Mississippi? I am not so sure about that one. Sorry, dude, I don't understand that reference. Let the House of the Dragon destroy itself from within. Nobody should win the Game of Thrones. Right. Yeah. If only politics were as simple as Game of Thrones, I would prefer Game of Thrones. Actually, it's a lot more sexy than real life politics. That's for sure. I think it'd be more interesting if we actually had, if we actually had lots of intrigue and incest and shit like that going on in real American politics. I think more people would pay attention to it. Anyway, guys, let's continue on a little bit with Ned Flanders' porn stash here. He's only got about 30 seconds left in his diatribe.
12 generals that are loyal to Trump. The Secretary of State and the President of the United States are the two only people that could tell them what to do. They run the whole military. What I am getting at, combat area commanders, there's only two people that stand in the way of bringing freedom to your country. Please bring justice.
Yep. Has no idea how the military works, has no idea how the nation works, and is actively calling for the military to commit treason. If you were to talk to this guy in real life, he'd probably say that he's a patriot. Please remember, folks, these people are not patriots, right? This guy's not a patriot, right here. When you're advocating for your own military to take over the country because you don't like the results of a democratically held election, that there's no proof of any actual fraud going on, and the actual person who lost tried to fucking take over the country, tried to steal that election. When you're doing that, you're not a patriot. You're the opposite of a patriot. Let's move down here. Another guy. You always notice how all of these people are like in their late 30s or mid 40s or even older, They're all overweight. I mean, this guy probably weighs the same amount that I do. Actually, I probably weigh less than this guy, come to think about it. Right? There's no way that this dude wouldn't last 5 minutes on a battlefield. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hey, Patriot standing by. Thank God I seen your video this morning, because I would have totally forgotten. See, here in Kentucky, a strange thing's happening too. Look at that phenomenon up there. It's where the sun, it kind of hazes behind the clouds. That's exactly what happens when it's time to take over the fucking government.
Yep. At least this dude isn't pussyfooting around the issue. At least he's like being honest about what he wants. He wants to take over the fucking government. Right? Mad as hell because his favorite Cheeto-dusted messiah might actually be held accountable for something for the first time in his life. So, anyway, there's a couple more of these. How many more do we actually have? There was one I wanted to watch here. I wanted to watch this person because Katie here, this is sort of the perfect example of whataboutism at its finest, right? And plus we've been watching all of these fucking like older, bearded, overweight Rambo wannabes, and we haven't heard from any of the women on the right wing. And, I believe in equal representation when it comes to crazies. So let's see what she's got to say.
Dear IRS, we the people accept your civil war.
Come on.
Waiting for this for a long time. If you bring guns to our homes,
Oh, wait.
guess what? We have guns too.
So that's kind of a misconception there, They think that the people on the right wing think they're the only people with guns, right? Plenty of people who are not insane right-wingers also have firearms, right? This is the United States. You have a right to own one. So plenty of people who collect guns, who are even into survivalism and shit like that, are not insane right-wingers. Right. And what is she advocating for? This woman is advocating for, violence against the IRS. She's basically saying when the IRS comes, shoot them. Right? Remember, these are people that claim to be patriots, but they're not. They're not patriots at all. Right? Okay, here was one that I wanted to show you guys. This is actually on Twitter, so we'll just go straight to this. And let's see. This is... Stop. Don't start talking yet, please. Okay, let me move this over just a little bit. And let me put this down in the chat for y'all, because this is the whataboutism woman. This is whataboutism at its finest. Let's turn off that other one. I think we're done watching that shit. But let's hear what she has to say here.
Hey, it's me. Just here to remind you a few things. While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you that Hillary Clinton scrubbed computers and mishandled classified information and is yet to be served a warrant for any of her homes or offices. While the FBI...
Okay, you know what? Let's just watch it all the way through, and then I'm going to comment on it. So, all right?
FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you that Hunter Biden's laptop was seized by the FBI, and video footage was leaked of Hunter Biden breaking multiple federal gun laws, federal sex trafficking laws, federal narcotic laws, and has yet to be served with a single warrant to search his property, his home, or his offices. While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you that not a single pedophile has been imprisoned or even named that is in connection with Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein. While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you all that five full-term, fully developed, full gestational aged babies were found murdered in a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic.
I really like this music she's got behind this. It really adds a lot. That's sort of like, like it's almost like it's a Channel 5 movie of the week sort of daytime like soap opera special sort of thing. That's really tugging at my heartstrings here. This slow piano in the background. It makes me understand that she's serious about this. Let's move on a little.
On April 1st, 2022. This is considered a federal crime, and there are no pending charges. We have communists and evil political activists running our government right now.
Evil?
And I think the time is coming. As an Army veteran, I do not recognize my country anymore.
Okay. Lots of claims in this TikTok. But I wanted to go over this one in particular, right? Because this, I think, exemplifies a couple of things. First off, the whataboutism argument is really the only argument they have, that the right wing has in this country. That's the only thing they've got. I think I'm going to rename this because I was going to talk a lot about the Second Civil War and shit in this stream, but I think we'll save that mainly for next week. I think we're having too much fun going over all these conservative TikToks here. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But anyway, yeah, the whataboutism thing is really the only thing they've got. She didn't say, and she said while Trump is being raided, right? She didn't talk about what Trump is accused of doing. She didn't talk about any of the proof that they have, the photos of the missing documents, stuff like that, and how that's illegal. And she didn't even try to defend Donald Trump. She didn't try to say Trump didn't do it or that it wasn't wrong, anything like that. She didn't say any of that shit at all. Her entire thing here is, what about this? What about that? Because they don't have a defense, right? So let's keep that in mind. The number one thing is they're not even, most of the time, trying to even, defend Trump for any of this stuff. They're just saying, what about all the bad shit somebody else did? Well, the reason why whataboutism is a bullshit defense that doesn't fucking work is because the response to that is, who cares? That's the response, right? Have you ever tried, when you were a kid, and you tried to use the what about defense with your parents? What did your parents say to you? Well, hey, I want to go hang out with my friends, blah, 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 blah. Well, if all of your friends went and jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Right? It doesn't matter if somebody else does some bad shit too. That does not excuse the bad things that you do, right? If you go murder 10 people, and then you go, well, hey, when the cops come arrest you, and you go, hey, this other guy murdered 11 people, that doesn't change the fact that you murdered 10 people. Right? So it doesn't, it's not an argument. It's not, it's like, not even, it doesn't address anything at all. It's like, who gives a fuck what anybody else did? We're not talking about anybody else. We're talking about you. We're not talking about Hunter Biden. We're not talking about Hillary Clinton. We're talking about fucking Donald Trump and the shit that he's accused of. That's the first thing, right? So let's go through these one at a time because these need to be addressed. So let's see what she's got to say here.
Hey, it's me. While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you that Hillary Clinton scrubbed computers and mishandled classified information and is yet to be served a warrant for any of her homes or offices.
So that is not entirely true. What did Hillary Clinton what was she accused of, right? You keep, the buttery mails thing, right? Keep hearing about that. What exactly is Hillary Clinton actually accused of, right? She was accused of using her own email servers to do government business with, right? You're not supposed to do that because there is the Official Records Act, and the Official Records Act applies to everyone in the government. So not just the president, but, senators, and it applies to the Secretary of State, which is what Hillary Clinton was for a little while. Stuff like that, applies to everybody. And you're supposed to use, right, you're supposed to use official government channels to do government communications because these messages, these emails, are the property of the United States, right? That's what the law says, right? This is essentially what Donald Trump is in trouble for, for taking these government records. They don't belong to him. They're the property of the United States. So even if there were no, please remember that, right? Even if there were no classified information in the documents that Donald Trump took, still illegal because these are not, they don't belong to him. They belong to the United States, right? By law. So keep that in mind. Hillary Clinton is accused of using her own email to send, to basically use her own server to send her own private emails. And the reason why you don't want to do that is because those servers may not be secure. The government servers are held to a certain standard to make sure that nobody's listening in, copying emails, ripping them off, shit like that. And if you have your own server that's being run in your basement of your house or whatever, the security on that server might not be up to the right standard, and you might get spies and shit intercepting your emails. That was the big deal, because if you happen to send something that deals with an issue that's classified, those people listening in on your server, people who have penetrated your server, may be getting copies of that stuff. And that information might be going to the enemies of the United States, right? It just so happens that the amount of classified documents Hillary Clinton mishandled is zero. Right? Zero. She did not have any classified documents on her email server, right? There were messages that dealt with classified subjects, but there were no actual classified documents being sent through her server, right? Some of the emails were set as classified after they were sent, right? So she could not be, prosecuted. I always mess those up. Not persecuted. She couldn't be prosecuted for mishandling a classified email when it is determined to be classified after it already went through her hands. That's the actual truth, right? And yes, some of the emails disappeared. Why? Because her server was not archived the way that a government email server is archived, right? And so some of them went missing. Why? Because shit happens. A hard drive goes dead or something like that, and all the emails saved on there disappeared. Well, the Trump people have spun this into this huge conspiracy, saying that she had 33,000 emails that went missing and she scrubbed the server and all this other crap. They don't even know what the fuck that shit means. Half the time Donald Trump, she scrubbed them, and then she actually starts making a motion like with a brush. Like, Donald Trump doesn't know what that fucking means. He has no fucking clue. Right? So, it's basically become this huge conspiracy that it really does not have very much truth to it whatsoever. Right? Was it something that she shouldn't have done, that maybe she should be fined for, something like that? Yeah, but thrown in prison? No. Right? And really, what needs to happen is that there needs to be regulations saying that you're not allowed to use your own private mail. Please keep in mind that Ivana Trump, Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump himself all used unsecured cell phones when they were. So, you want some whataboutism. Here's some whataboutism right back at you. Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, Ivana Trump, and, many others during the Trump administration did the exact same shit. They used unsecured cell phones, right? They, would use unsecured email addresses, things like that, Gmail addresses, that kind of thing, for government business. And then it turns out Donald Trump just fucking went home with, boxes and boxes of actual classified shit that he either has been selling or has allowed to go missing while in his custody, which is... So just let's keep that in mind. The thing that Donald Trump is accused of is like orders of magnitude worse than Hillary Clinton. So when anybody tries to do this whataboutism shit when it comes to this, it's not even the same fucking ballpark. But remember, that's the only argument these people have. The only thing they have is... What about her emails? Buttery emails. Her fucking buttery mails all over the place. Because they don't have an argument here. So, moving on.
While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you that Hunter Biden's laptop was seized by the FBI, and video footage was leaked of Hunter Biden breaking multiple federal gun laws, federal sex trafficking laws, federal narcotic laws, and has yet to be served with a single warrant to search his property, his home, or his offices. While the...
So what? Why does that matter? Why are these people so obsessed with fucking Hunter Biden? Like, what the hell did Hunter Biden do? Why did they... Hunter Biden is not in the government. He's not in charge of anything. He is not a politician. He's not in the Biden administration. He's Biden's fucking misfit son. You know, who gives a shit what Hunter Biden does? How is that relevant whatsoever to anything? You know? Did he put Hunter Biden in charge of the Mideast peace process? No. Did he put Hunter Biden in charge of the fucking the coronavirus outbreak? No. Like, that's what Donald Trump did to his dumbass son-in-law. So why do these people? I don't understand it. It's like, why don't what is she basically saying? How come this guy who's completely unrelated to anything hasn't been punished for bad shit that he did? It's who the fuck cares? Number one, right? Number two, it's not illegal to have video of you doing drugs. I talked about this in a prior stream a little bit back, so I won't spend too much time on it, but if you just have like a video of you like snorting cocaine or smoking weed or like shooting up heroin or something, you can't get arrested for that. Like, a cop can't come to your house and be like, we have video evidence of you using, so you're getting locked up. It's like, no. They have to you actually doing the drug, indoors is not illegal. If you're not like in a public place, right? That's not illegal. Okay, possession is what's illegal. You're not allowed to have the shit on you. So the cops would have to come to your house and find it on you. They'd have to actually do a raid, and then what are you gonna like bust him for possession? So what? What does he get? 90 days in a drug rehab center? Right? You'd have to have enough. It's not even really worth busting someone for possession sometimes. In some states, we've actually done the right thing in a couple of states and decriminalized it, like in Colorado and elsewhere. You're actually allowed to have small amounts of certain kinds of drugs, and you just get like a ticket. You don't go to prison for that shit anymore. I guess if you're in Texas, you still go to prison for 20 years for possession or something. That's the first thing. Also, you can't arrest someone for having a video of them having sex with a prostitute. Right? That doesn't work either. You have to like catch them in the act. Just because there's a video of him doing it, all he's going to be like, yeah, it was consensual. I didn't pay her for it. The end. Do you have video of him giving her the money? Even then it's like, oh yeah, that's just a kink thing. She didn't actually keep the money. This is just, this is role play. Right? There's no, it's like you can't arrest somebody for this. It would get laughed out of court. Right? I mean, you can bust someone for prostitution. You have to set up a sting. You have to catch them in the act. And it's only after they pay then they can get arrested, because it's illegal to do that. It's not illegal to have a video of it. Of Hunter Biden owning a gun. Is he shooting it in a residential area or something like that? I mean, good luck with that shit. Okay. So you have a video of him having the gun. All right. Well, you'd have to go to his house and like actually find the gun on him. And why is he not allowed to have it? What is he like? Was he arrested or something? Was he arrested and not allowed to own firearms ever in his whole life? I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, yeah, maybe. But still, it's like such small potatoes bullshit. Besides, I thought these people supported gun rights and all that stuff. But I guess they only support gun rights as long as you're not a fucking son of a Democratic president, right? When you're a Democrat, when you're an evil liberal Nazi, right? A liberal Nazi communist, then I guess you're not allowed to have a Second Amendment, right? It's such bullshit. It's bullshit, small potatoes bullshit. That I mean, if you're going to do a whataboutism on things, at least try to find some shit that actually is important and relevant. Fucking ridiculous. Moving on.
FBI raids Mar-a-Lago. I would like to take this time to remind you that not a single pedophile has been imprisoned or even named that is in connection with Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, we know one person who was connected to Jeffrey Epstein. His name was Donald Trump. We know one person. I mean, if you're so, hey, are there photos of Joe Biden hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? Are there? We have one of Donald Trump. So how come people aren't asking Donald Trump what he was doing with Jeffrey Epstein? The Q, tards and all those people, they think Donald Trump was infiltrating Epstein's island. Like, if you were to go ask any of the MAGA people, any of the fucking, like, QAnon people, stuff like that, and you were to be like, hey, how come, like, Donald Trump is, there's all these photos of him back in the 80s hanging out with Epstein and all this with, like, very young girls on their arms. And they would say some shit like, well, he was infiltrating them. He was fighting against them. He wasn't actually part of it. He was there digging up dirt on the evil satanic pedophiles. That's what they would actually tell you, right? So, it's just fucking brainwashed cultism, really. Like, oh, my guy, when we have evidence, cold fucking hard evidence of my dude doing the exact same shit that we're like, riling against, that we're fighting against. They'll go through all the fucking mental gymnastics in the world to ignore that. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
While the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, I would like to take this time to remind you all that five full-term, fully developed, full gestational aged babies were found murdered in a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic on April 1st, 2022. This is considered a federal crime, and there are no pending charges.
I actually looked into this, right? What is she talking about here, right? Well, it is very, here, let me go back over here. Let's make that smaller. It may interest you to know that there were not 5 fully formed babies found in a Washington abortion clinic. That is not true. What actually happened is this. Go away. Let me put this down in the chat for you guys so that you can follow along. What she actually is referring to is this story that happened. Oh, damn it. Keep moving the wrong one. There we go. Let's make this bigger so that we can read along here. April 1st, 2022. And this was not an April Fool's joke. Okay, this actually happened. 5 fetuses found inside of an anti-abortion activist's home in Washington, D.C. You notice she said 5 fully formed babies found inside a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic. In real life, it was 5 fetuses found inside an anti-abortion activist's home. Right? So, what actually happened? Police went into the home of a self-proclaimed anti-abortion activist who was indicted this week on federal charges alleging that she was part of a group of people who blocked access to a Washington, D.C. reproductive health center. So, they went to an activist who basically chained herself in front of one of the doors to an abortion clinic. They raided her house, right? They were responding to a tip about a potential biohazard material, right? And they found in the home of this 28-year-old abortion activist 5 jars with fetuses in them. Right? And, yeah, that's what this really was all about. So, police said the 5 fetuses were collected by a Washington medical examiner and the investigation is ongoing. So that's what this really is. There were not 5. Let's go ahead and turn that off for now. There were not 5 babies that were found inside of a. Let's make that a little smaller. There were not 5 babies found inside of a fully formed murdered babies inside of an abortion clinic. They were actually 5 fetuses in jars inside of an anti-abortion activist. How did this woman get that story so incredibly wrong? You know, first off, all it would have taken for her is not even research. It just would have took like literally the first result when I searched for 5 babies, Washington, D.C., April 1st. That's what came up. The literal first result. So you don't have to dig very hard to debunk conspiracy theories. Which tells you either they're not doing it at all, or they're just ignoring the results they don't like, which is most likely what's happening. They're probably, she's probably just ignoring the results she doesn't like, but she most likely didn't even try to verify that story at all. She most likely just found that on TikTok or on Facebook or on InfoWars and believed it wholeheartedly, because there's nothing like fanaticism in order to put blinders on somebody. And that just goes to show you how propaganda can twist around the truth like that. And literally, it just takes such little effort to find out what the actual truth is. And she won't do it. She didn't do it. Conspiracy theorists are lazy. Let's watch the rest.
We have communists and evil political activists running our government right.
There are exactly 0 communists in the government at this moment. Bernie Sanders is not a communist. AOC is not a communist. Rashida Tlaib is not a communist. Even the most left-wing of the people we have in the government right now at the national level, none of them are communists. None of them are even close to communists. They're barely even socialists even. Bernie Sanders is probably the closest thing we have to a socialist. And even he's not a socialist. He's not really. Not if you were to compare him to, socialists like in Europe or something like that. What they want is like, a safety net with a few social, semi-socialist policies. Things like, things like socialized medicine. But none of those people I just mentioned are advocating for a socialist takeover of the United States either. Not really. They're democratic socialists, which is like the lightest, most milquetoast form of even if you can even call them people socialists. It's like, but this woman's been fed just this stream of lies her entire fucking life. And she thinks that we're one step away from a fucking communist takeover, that we're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be like we're living in the United States of the USSR or something. Absolutely ridiculous.
Right now. And I think the time is coming.
The time is coming. For what? The time is coming for what? Just say it. Okay. That other asshole before said it, take over the fucking government. Just say it.
As an Army veteran, I do not recognize my country anymore.
Just say it, you fucking coward. That's the last thing I want to say here. Let's turn this shit off, all right? Because this is pissing me off. Enough of these assholes. That's the last thing I want to say about all of these people, right? First off, they're idiots, right? Secondly, they're fucking lazy as hell. Every single last one of these morons is lazy, right? All it would, I mean, we just demonstrated right there what it takes to actually find out what the truth is. They don't want to go through that. Third, they're cowards. Every single last one of them is cowards. Just say it. Do you want to take over the country? Just say it. No, she won't say it. You know why? Because her TikTok account is what she truly values. These people are not patriots. It's that, and the reason why I wanted to do this stream is I wanted to point this out just to show. Oh wait, no, that's let's turn that off. I forgot that I still have my window open. The reason why I wanted to do this stream is to kind of demonstrate, these are the actual people who are threatening the Civil War, right? These are the people who are threatening violence. And, because you often hear in discussions on the left wing, people are kind of afraid of this. No, there's going to be violence, blah, 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 right? And what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them, okay? Because they always threaten violence. They always show up. They always show up with guns. and threaten to take over the fucking country, right? It's their first, they always threaten to kill people. They send death threats. They send rape threats, They dox and harass people, right? And they're bullies. And what you have to do with bullies is you have to fight back, right? People like this need to be resisted. We need to fight back against it. When you see people like this on online, in the online discourse, when you're talking to people and you're on Facebook or whatever, when you're on Reddit, and there's somebody out there screaming and yelling about how they're going to take over the country and all this other shit, you need to call them out on it. Call them out on it, right? Fight back against them, And we're not to that point where an actual civil war is. I don't think there ever will be a civil war. I don't ever think there will be. Not in the way that they're describing, I could see sectarian violence. I could see things like terrorism happening. And if that were to happen, I don't think that would go well for them. I don't think that the mass of the civilian populace will back right-wing terrorism, in this country. I think the exact opposite would happen. So don't stand for it. When you see people like this in your everyday life talking about how we need to take over and it's go time and all that, call them out on it. Okay? Because this kind of talk is dangerous and it causes people to do dangerous things and real people could actually get hurt. And it's like, I don't know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what a second civil war actually could be, but I think we'll save that for next week. I think I'm going to rename this stream. Actually, no. I think MAGA losers threaten a second civil war I think it's still a good title. Maybe we'll keep the title up. But I want to talk, maybe next time we'll do a part 2 to this, where we'll talk about, what would actually a civil war entail if there actually were to be a civil war in, the United States, right? Because I think a lot of the right wing, a lot of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the rednecks with their guns think that they'll just take over. And in real life, it would not go that easy for them. I think there's a lot of delusion on the right wing about that subject. And it might be something worth exploring. Anyway, YouTube is saying I'm not receiving enough video and my stream may be choppy. Sorry about that. So why don't we just go ahead and end this? Because, it is getting close to that time anyway. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I know that I probably should have said that at the beginning of the stream. I will next time, I promise. But anyhow, if you like what I do and you want to, give me some money, support my channel monetarily or whatnot, you can check me out on my Etsy shop. So I do have an Etsy shop here. Let me put this down in the chat so that you can see what it is. I sell prints. Let me turn on my main window again. Nope. Actually, yes, there it is. Here's my Etsy shop. I sell prints and stuff like that. I sell comics, that kind of thing. Here's a new one that I did for, this is actually some fan art that I did for another YouTube channel. But he gave me permission to make a scroll out of it, so I sell stuff like this, prints, scrolls, comics, that kind of thing. So please check me out on my Etsy shop if you want to support me monetarily. If you want to see more of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt site. I know nobody goes to DeviantArt anymore, but I still do. And I will probably set up some other gallery elsewhere. But anyway, here's where I do some more artwork. And you can see here's like a dragon thing that I did recently, on my spare time here. So if you want to see more of it, please come check me out on DeviantArt. I have a webcomic called Hawanja.com. It's fun for the whole stupid family. There's a thing down there. It's got ninjas. It's got people getting punched in the face. It's got, talking ducks, that kind of thing, and lots of violence and stuff like that. Please check out my webcomic. And if you want to see me talk about toys and video games and other non-political stuff, please check me out on UCD Videos. That's my other YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all coming. Really, thank you all coming for every week. It's really great. And next week, at Saturday at 11 Pacific time. We will continue our discussion about a second civil war. Until that time,